Welcome to The Fight Show on Sports Tonight Live with me, Don McGuinness, and as ever, delighted to a man that, well, he needs no introduction, but it is Spencer Oliver. But a little brief introduction would be former European super bantamweight champion and a man with fine sartorial elegance as well. Busy week as ever, Spencer?
As ever, yeah, been really busy. Was down at the weekend working on the Nathan Cleverley fight. That was very interesting. Another good performance by Cleverley, and busy in the gym as always.
Cleverley, how would you sum up his performance?
Well,
I mean, he got a bit of stick, didn't he?
Yeah, he did get a bit of stick, but I mean, he put in a great performance. But if a guy comes and doesn't really want to fight, he was only really a sparring partner. He was a former sparring partner of Roy Jones, and he brought that into the ring with him. So it was very hard for Cleverley because Kapensky didn't really want to fight. So, I mean, all in all, Cleverley done everything that he could do. He won every round, and onwards and upwards, they say.
More of that chat in a minute. We've got plenty of guests on tonight. If we have a quick look at our salubrious green room, we can see Ali Adams, who's got a fight coming up with the one and only Audley Harrison, alongside Don Charles, who's had a little bit of press and a busy couple of weeks himself, and then Steve Goodwin as well, promoter. But we can start our latest fight show alongside you, a man you know well, of course, promoter and founder of secondsout.com, Robert Waterman. Hello, Robert. How are you?
Hi, very good. How are you?
You've been enjoying the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, very much so, thanks. Yeah, very interesting time.
It is interesting time. I think it's always going to be interesting times at the moment for boxing, taking a lot of heat, of course, after Chisora, the Klitschko stuff in Munich. But yourself, as a promoter, as a man that's been involved with the sport for a long time, a guy that knows a lot of the protagonists, in fact, from the last couple of weeks, what's your general view of the way things are shaping up now?
Well, I think it's interesting. I mean, if we look at the Chisora Klitschko issue, I don't think it's as bad for boxing as everyone's making out. I mean, it's a shame, and I'm not defending anything that either of them did at all. It's reprehensible, and you can't defend the indefensible. But it's not so bad for boxing. I mean, if we look at it historically, it's happened before. If we look at even the press coverage, had the two guys donated half their purses to charity and opened a general hospital, boxing wouldn't have got half the coverage that it got. We live in a society of immediate, salacious gratification, and they ate it up, the press ate it up. Boxing's had more coverage than we've had for years. Of course it's indefensible, of course it's bad, but you know, the old thing, no PR is bad PR, and you've only got to watch football and look at the footballers and what they get up to realise that, yeah, this is almost an almost nothing as far as I'm concerned. Of course they need to be punished and dealt with, but I don't see it as the end of boxing.
There has been a great deal of chat, Spencer. I mean, we spoke about it last week in terms of where does boxing go now?
Sure.
Is it all bleak and everything else? We're going to get into what Robert's up to in a second. But do you think that the dust has settled a little bit? We've had the statement from Jose Sullivan and everything else.
Absolutely, yeah. Jose Sullivan is now sort of, you know, he said that Derek wasn't going to, had been banned by the WBC. I think he's now reconsidering that situation. We've got a big debate going on this evening down at Bethnal Green, York Hall, which is going out live on a radio station. Derek's hearing's coming up on March the 14th, where the Boxing Board are going to be seen to be dealing with the situation. But look, I think that the dust has settled a little bit, and as Robert rightly said, you know, these things happen in boxing. Boxing's got a lot of publicity out of it, and the right thing will be dealt with on March the 14th. But until March the 14th, we can't really say no more about it.
And this is Olympic year. And we've got the biggest squad and the strongest squad as Team GB for many Olympics. I can't remember an Olympics in my lifetime where we've had a bigger or stronger squad. That's going to give a great fillip to the sport here. And, you know, the amateurs of yesterday are the professionals, the amateurs today are the professionals tomorrow, as Spencer can attest to.
There seems to be a remarkable amount of hypocrisy in terms of some of the people that have been jumping up and down about the events in Munich will be the same people that will be jumping up and down for very different reasons when Team GB win a host of medals.
Absolutely.
You know, in East London from a few months' time. People, there doesn't seem to be any kind of sense in that.
Listen, a lot of the people that are jumping up and down about the events that happened out in Munich are the same people that paid the £10 to watch the contest anyway. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. I think that people just like to make a little bit of noise and be heard about certain situations, and when the dust settles, you know, is it really as bad as what has come out over the press over the last couple of weeks?
Ultimately then, from your point of view, Robert, you've got a show coming up in Peterborough next week.
9th of March.
What does this do for you? Does it help you sell, ironically, despite the profit of doom merchants?
I don't think it has to be frank, I don't think it has an effect on my show. We've got a great show on the 9th of March at Peterborough Arena, East of England Showground. We've got some great fighters on it. They are what will sell the event. The fans, I haven't had one person so far that has said we've got a problem with the show or there's an issue because of what happened. It is really not on people's radar with respect to boxing fans. Of course, it gives ammunition to those people who would like to cause problems to boxing.
I think, as far as it goes with the boxing fans, I think it creates an interest with the boxing fans. Boxing fans, actually, if you listen to the people on the street, the boxing fans actually quite enjoyed a little bit of drama in boxing because boxing's been going through quite a lull anyway, and I think that the general people in the street has created a lot of interest, whether it be good or bad. People on the street seem to be sort of like, it's sparked up a little bit of interest. So I think for the small hall shows like what Robert's doing up in Peterborough, I think that it can only be good for them sort of shows because it sort of sparks a little bit of interest. Do you know what I mean?
So talk us through a couple of the fights that you've got lined up.
Well, we've got Cello Render, who's never in a dull fight. He had the famous double knockdown show, I think in 2009, against Paul Samuels. He then fought him again and lost, but again, both of them were down in that show as well. Both received counts. I mean, Cello's not in a dull fight, ever in a dull fight. I think he's one of the most exciting fighters out there. He's now taken on a new trainer in John Pegg, who says he's putting a bit of maturity and skill and technique into Cello, and he says we're going to see a new Cello. But I suspect home crowd, the adrenaline, he sold a pile of tickets. I think when that all happens, we're going to have a real excitement. We've got JJ Bird on the card. Funnily enough, he's a boxer trained by our friend here, Spencer. JJ had a bit of a issue on a previous event, and he's had to jump through an awful lot of hoops to be permitted to box on this show, but that's all past now, and we're looking for a good performance, a sort of a career rebuild performance on this show. We've got Martin Gethin, who's, you know, a real British quality standard fighter. He's in an international masters title fight, a good 10-round fight. We've got Nathan Dale, Kane Brodie, Jake the Snake Dyer, and Terry Holmes, all in sort of good local contests. And I don't actually look at this as a small hall fight. I've done small hall shows, I've done some very big shows. I look at this as somewhere in the middle because it's in a fabulous arena. It's going out live on YouTube and I think also Sports Tonight Live. And the amount of interest, the amount of support, and in the arena it's in, and with the volume of sort of the tickets that are going to be sold, yeah, this is a big show. It's the biggest show in Peterborough for at least 6 or 7 years. I was going to say, is it the first show in Peterborough for at least 6, 7 years? I mean, there's not been a lot of boxing there for a while, has there? That's right, Spencer. I mean, it's there hasn't been a pro show in Peterborough for 6 or 7 years. The last one, I think, also, and I might be wrong on this, but I think was also in the same place. But there hasn't been one there for a long time, and we're getting a lot of support from local businessmen up there and the local fans, and we're looking for a really great night.
Well, I think we can. One of the guys you mentioned there, sorry to interrupt you there slightly, Spencer, but is JJ Bird, who, of course, is known to many people outside of boxing as well for various reasons. He's on the line now. Good evening to you, JJ.
Hi, guys. You all right?
I'm fine, thank you. Two chaps that know you well here, sitting, listening to you. How are you shaping up then ahead of the big one next week?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm looking forward to it. Obviously, it's kind of a kind of comeback kind of fight, kind of reinventing myself like in boxing. As you mentioned there, like a lot of people know me for various other stuff. But yeah, this is kind of a restart of my career in my hometown, which is where it all started. So I'm really looking forward to it.
So JJ, also, I mean, I train you, so I see JJ every day. For the people that don't know, I train JJ. Tell the people how much you're looking forward to boxing back in Peterborough, because it means a lot to you, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. I mean, obviously, this is where this is where I come from, where I live. A lot of my fans are all from Peterborough. They've supported me. They've come down to London when I've been fighting here. Obviously, I haven't fought for a few years, so everyone's kind of looking to see what the new JJ is going to be like. They're all looking to like get down and support me. So it's going to be a really good show, and I'm really looking forward to it. It's really exciting. Like I say, it's kind of like me and reinventing myself back in boxing and restarting my career after, I mean, I'm sure a few people know about what happened with when I was lined up to fight in the prize fighter. So now I'm kind of stepping my first foot back on the ladder and kind of working my way up till I get to the British title, which eventually I do want to get and believe I can do in the next 2 to 3 years.
JJ, just remind us, I mean, you mentioned prize fighter. There was a story of you fainting, passing out backstage. You've had some medical issues. So just tell us about that and where you're up to now.
Yeah. basically, me and Spencer in, obviously, we had a good camp, but towards sort of the week leading up to prize fight, I started to kind of feel quite unwell. I was getting a bit of a cold and stuff like that, and I tried to really soldier it out. And I think with the training and the pressure I put on myself, like in the lead up to that fight, and then with the heat that was in the change rooms, because there was a lot of guys in there, and it was a full packed atmosphere, and I was just getting my bandages done up. I went to stand up to go and get some fresh air, and the next thing I know, I've woken up and like Spencer's in my face, and I didn't even know what had happened. But I mean, it was probably a bit silly of me. Like, I probably should have said something or maybe pulled out. But obviously, I saw it as a kind of a way back in to boxing and get myself towards that British title. But now I get the chance to do it the right way. Start on a small hall show like in Peterborough, in my hometown, get the fans back behind me and follow me all the way through.
Yeah, just to explain to people, because I was in the dressing room that night that night with JJ, just to explain to people what exactly happened was there was, you've got 8 fighters in the prize fighters plus the 2 reserves, so you've got anybody that knows York Hall in the dressing rooms, Robert will know this, the dressing rooms are probably as big as this studio. They're very, very small. And you've got all those fighters in there with all the trainers and everything. It was a hot evening. And that was the situation. JJ was getting his hands wrapped up at the time. It was extremely hot in there. I know that JJ had a cold before the week running up to it. We thought he was going to see it through because he was still going really well in the gym. And I think that was the effect that it had on him, just the heat in there. And JJ asked to get up. Dean Powell was a little bit slow and stopped doing his hands, and the inevitable happened. But straight away, me and JJ went to the hospital. We went through all the procedures that we'd done, but the boxing board weren't happy. They asked him for further tests. Robert will vouch that he's been through so many tests. He's probably been through more tests than he had fights. Do you know what I mean? It's been a real difficult time for him, and I know how much he's looking forward to fighting back in his hometown.
Yeah, and that's true, of course, and JJ can testify. We've helped him, through this test situation, and we've put pressure to make sure it all happened in time so he'd get clearance for this show. But my dream, you said, where do I see? If JJ comes through this one well, which we all expect him to do, then I'd like to put the British title or a proper title fight on in his hometown, in Peterborough, in the next couple of years.
So what would be more important than JJ, that British title or getting on another big TV show, Big Brother? What else have you been on?
I've been on a few, but to be honest, they've all been a kind of a side trail to help boost my career. As a lot of guys know in the sport, unless you've got the support of sponsors and stuff like that, it can be a tough sport. And even if you're one of the best fighters, they still struggle. So I kind of tried to use my brain and try to get exposure and stuff like that. Obviously, I seem to have done that, but it's kind of had a negative effect because people just see me now as some kind of guy that just goes on reality shows because I want the attention. I wanted it to kind of help boost my boxing career. So now I'm back to the drawing board. I'm back fighting in a show in Peterborough, and we're going to restart next week and look to go all the way to get that British title. And I don't really want to go on any more TV shows other than for fighting and for when I do eventually get that title.
Excellent. And you're very welcome here on Sports Night Live on The Fight Show, JJ, as well. This is reality TV, but for a different reason. So best of luck anyway, March the 9th in Peterborough. All the very best to you.
I'll see you tonight, mate.
Lovely, thanks.
So nice to see ambitions back on track. A little bit of a health scare. It's all sorted and he cracks on.
The ambitions was always there, It could have been quite easy for JJ to bail out after that incident with the prize fighter and stuff. It could have quite easily bailed out. I mean, the kid showed his determination. He travels down from Peterborough to London every single day. That's the determination. That tells you that he really wants it. So, I'm praying it all works out for him. I know the ability he's got. I know he can reach British title level because I train him every day. With Robert's help, hopefully, we can go all the way to the British title.
A smart enough lad as well, Robert. So it's the kind of guy you want to work with.
Yeah, I think that, with JJ's support, with his effort, with his ability, with an awful lot of, Peterborough support as well, we can make some of these things happen. But at the end of the day, as Spencer knows, it's all well and good for the best promotion, the best boy, but it's what happens with the two of them get in the ring. They have to perform, and we're all hoping for a big performance on March the 9th at the Peterborough Arena.
Well, very best of luck with that show. I'm sure it's going to be excellent. And you're very welcome as well with JJ to come back when he's got off to a winning, resurgent start to his career, if you like, as well, with the help of Spencer. But Robert Waterman, thank you very much indeed for joining us right here on The Fight Show on Sports Tonight Live. Welcome back. This is The Fight Show on Sports Tonight Live with me, Don McGuinness. I'm delighted to say a couple of additions to the studio as well. We've, of course, got Spencer here already, but we've got Steve Goodwin and Ali Adams as well. And I've got to start with you, Steve, simply for the fact otherwise we all look a bit silly in our black shirts. So you've added a nice bit of much-needed colour to this. Now, of course, a promoter who is working around now this sport that apparently is in terrible doubt, and everybody giving it a bit of a slap these days, pardon the pun, in terms of beating it down a little bit. But from your point of view, Steve, I mean, as a promoter now, it's hard getting the TV, it's hard putting the shows on, it's hard selling tickets. How are you doing it?
Well, you have to try and do something a little bit outside the box. It's very important to put on shows that people want to see and events that people want to see, which is very difficult without TV money. I've been promoting now for 2 years, and I suppose I would say I've done my apprenticeship in the sport. But I've signed 2 or 3 boxers myself, and my job is to deliver for them and do something out of the ordinary and try and get them the big chance. And we're doing this now with Ali. And you know, to bring Audley Harrison over without any TV guarantee is a bit of a feat, but it gives Ali the chance to establish himself rather than pound around for the next 12 months on small hall shows.
It's a great fight, particularly for profile. He's not fought, of course, Ali, since the David Hay fight, going back a while now, but Audley Harrison is still a name. And, of course, his profile is huge after dancing around a little bit as well on TV. So how did it all come about in terms of you getting the fight? And obviously you're involved in this, Steve, and in terms of you having the right credentials for it as far as you're concerned, and you focusing on this and how it's all going to pan out now for next month, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, you know, just we've been training really hard, and you know, it's like I asked Steve, you know, like a while ago, you know, after winning my international title, I said to him, Steve, you know, it's like we need to have a big name now, you know, because time to step up and everything, you know. It's like, you know, I've been fighting, you know, for a while, and you know, having been getting, like, you know, having been in the beginning of my career, I wasn't managed properly, and you know, so I just wanted to get somewhere, you know. This is my dream, this is my boxing, this is like, you know, this is my life. So I asked Steve to do an amazing job, and then, you know, just he contacted Audley, and then we got the fight, and then now preparation is going really well. We're training, you know, me and Don Charles. Don Charles is my trainer, he's an amazing trainer. It's going really well, and, you know, just getting ready, so can't wait.
Well, I see these guys in the gym every day because, you know, I work in the gym with Don Charles, I work with Ali as well. I'd done the corner with Ali last time out, and I know what it means to Ali. As Ali said there, you know, he's boxed his career. No, he's relatively unknown. He's boxed, you know, on small hall shows. This is his big opportunity. He realises that Steve Goodwin, the up and coming promoter, has delivered the fight, and this is a massive chance for him. You know, he's on a massive stage. I mean, he's boxing a guy that's just come off a world title defeat. I mean, you don't get much bigger than that. A former Olympic medalist, and I know what it means to Ali, and Ali really wants to take this opportunity with both hands.
And Steve, your background, horse racing, successful in business, I mean, many people would say, why do you want to get involved in this world? I mean, it's not for money, I presume, it's for a love of the sport, is that right?
It is, and I'm an independent financial advisor by trade. That's what I've done for the last 25 years, and I set up a horse racing business around 17 years ago. My daughter was very keen on getting involved in boxing, and I started to promote, primarily because she wanted to get involved at some point in the future, and she's actually the world's youngest promoter, and she's making her way doing it. That was the original thing behind it, and I was asked by a professional boxer at the time whether I'd be interested in coming into the world of boxing, just to try and bring the way that I do things, which is very transparent, open, honest, accountable to all, and bring that into boxing and in the way that you deal with boxers, and that's why I did it. But I see myself long term more in the managerial role, and I would imagine that my daughter Olivia will be, you know, more on the promoting side.
Well, we had a chat, didn't we, 2 years ago. It was about 2 years ago now. Me and Steve had a sit down. Steve was looking to get into the boxing. We had a chat, asked me how we could get into it, where we could go, and I was just saying, you know, you get a lot of promoters that when they come into boxing, especially blindfolded like Steve was, because he knew nothing about the game at all, didn't know anyone into it, so it was a really ambitious move, you know, coming from a horse racing background into boxing. He knew virtually nothing at all, and so where he's got to now and what he's doing now is quite incredible, you know, for a promoter. Only 2 years, you know, he's still at the teething stage as far as it's concerned in boxing, and to, you know, now he's promoting a fight with a guy that's just boxed just coming off a loss for the world title against Eddie Adams. And I mean, for me, I think he's achieved an incredible feat, you know, getting to this stage at only 2 years as a promoter. So he's done really, really well for himself.
Well, we're going to have more chat with Ali, of course, so we're going to hear more. He's going to hang around. But you're stable otherwise? Who do you have? How are you building it?
Well, building slowly but surely. I get my own manager. I qualify for a manager's licence in November, which I will be taking over. I look after, I promote certain boxers, which include Ali, and I took over Yassine El Machi, well, probably 2 years ago, just when I started, and we got him to, he won prize fighter last year, and he's now got a top 25 world ranking. So we've done well with Yaz as well, although he's been injured, so he's not been able to fight for the last, well, not 6-7 months. And we're just signing at the moment 2 or 3 other boxers at the moment as we're going through. So I would hope by the end of the year we'll have a firm committed stable of about 7 or 8 boxers, which is as much as I want, because I don't believe that you can do the job narrowing yourself down to 50 and 60. So I want to concentrate on 7 and 8 really good boxers that I can do what I've done for Ali and take them to the top.
And also, Steve, long term, where are you looking to get in the sport? I mean, what's the goal for you?
Oh, the goal for me, without any shadow of doubt, is to become a top promoter. You know, like the Matchrooms of this world. And that's the ultimate goal. I mean, the way that they've done it has been fantastic, and if I can work my way through to that in the end, that's what I aim to do. I don't aim to be small time. I want to get there, but I want to do it my way, which is the right way, and I'm sure we'll get there in the end.
And is it a case of working with other promoters? There is a perception that, you know, there's infighting and bitchiness or whatever. What's the future of it?
I think that you find that these days. We never used to get that. Back in the day, you know, you had your Mickey Duffs, your Frank Warrens, do you know what I mean, your Barry Hearns. None of them would work with any of them. But now, you know, due to TV and certain promoters having certain fighters, these promoters sort of seem to be working together a lot more, Steve.
Not,
and I think
not as much as they should, though, Spencer. I don't think. I mean, if you look at the Tyson Fury David Price debacle, I mean, that's not good for boxing. I mean, my view is that you need to work together with everybody, because people forget it's not about the promoters, it's about the boxers.
Absolutely.
And promoters forget that. They wage battles against each other and try and jostle for position. It's about people like Ali. This is what the sport's about, and that's what I'm here to do, and to make sure that from now on anybody that I deal with is looked after correctly.
Well, how credible is the threat from the mixed martial arts scene? It's been mentioned a lot, of course, and now, I mean, if you're sitting down and doing a business plan, I'm going to launch a new career as a boxing promoter, does it make any financial sense?
None at all.
And you know, is this threat then very credible, or how do you
especially
see the future?
from unlicensed as well? I think it's very difficult. Unlicensed boxing are making fortunes. I mean, I speak to promoters that are doing unlicensed, they're making a fortune from it. You can't do that with professional boxing. I mean, there's certain restraints involved. But at the end of the day, I think that we've got to put on decent shows, and, you know, we can't have in boxing 8 one-sided fights where you've got journeymen who've lost 100 fights against people that have had 4 fights. That doesn't wash anymore. You've got to make decent fights. And if you look at our Brentwood card, we've got, I think it's 6 or 7 fights with fighters with all winning records going against each other. We've got 11 wins against somebody with 6 wins. This is what it's called.
I think that's the secret now, isn't it? I think the public, you know, the paying punters fed up with seeing that, where you look at a card and you go, right, well, I know that all this side's going to win, that side's going to lose. People are not interested in that anymore. TV are not interested in that anymore. I think they've had their fingers burnt as well. And as Steve said, I think the only thing you can really do now is to put these fighters in and make decent fights, and that's the only thing that's going to sell. And if you're not willing to do that, then unfortunately you're not going to get too far in the industry.
We all know it's important for a young fighter to protect a record to a certain degree, but you know, you've had a couple of blips on your record.
Yeah,
it's not the be all and end all, is it? And I think if you use the MMA kind of comparison, those guys fight each other, they win, they lose, they carry on, you know, but they're all fighting, it's all the top fights, and that's what boxing kind of misses out sometimes, isn't it? But you're prepared to get in there and do whatever it takes to get the big fights, win, lose, or draw, if you like.
Definitely. No, I'm winning, you know, I'm 100% winning, you know. I'm going there, it's like, this is mean the world to me, you know, it means everything to me, you know. It's like, I've been doing this, you know, for long enough, and I feel myself, you know, I'm ready physically, I'm ready mentally, I'm ready in every way. And this is my time. It's like, you know, not a lot of people knows about Ali Adams, and this is the time to hear about Ali Adams, to know about Ali Adams. This is the beginning of my legacy. This is the end of Audley Harrison legacy, you know. This is the beginning of mine. So I'm going to, you know, just like to show the world, you know, I'm going to show the world you know, great boxer there, Ali Adams, and is going to be a champion.
See, what it is with Ali, I'll tell you a little bit about Ali's history. Before he teamed up with Don Charles, Ali was sort of, you know, just playing around at the game, you know, boxing on these small shows, not very good management. And he's met up with Don Charles. Don Charles has inserted a lot of confidence into him, and that's what's changed him, man. I've seen it from the beginning with Ali since he's been with Don, because I've worked with them a little bit as well. And I think that with this man here, it's all about the confidence, and he seems to, because he's in a good place at the moment. With boxing, a lot of it's a mental state, what sort of mental state of mind you're in, and with Ali, he's in that right place, and this opportunity couldn't have come for a better time for him, you know.
I agree with Spencer, you know, it's like the confidence, the thing is, you know, the training I used to get before, you know, all the respect to my old trainers in the past, you know, but the training I used to get is not quality training, it's not, you know, put me, you know, when I go to the ring sparring or fighting, I don't have the confidence, you know, just to keep me finish the rounds, you know. Now I can go 12 rounds, I can go 12 rounds sparring, 12 rounds fighting, whatever, you know, I feel like, you know, nothing to me. It's not nothing, but, you know, I feel like I'm there, you know, just like to fight and to get hit and to hit back. It was all amazing, you know, just all about the training.
I would like to say I've only been looking after Ali for the 4 months, so these periods they're talking about has nothing to do with me.
Well, we're going to get into more depth with you because you've got a very interesting tale as well. But Steve, we'll say cheerio to you because we are also going to be joined by Don Charles, of course, Ali's trainer, but he's got a few tales to tell, of course. He's been at the thick of the action in recent weeks, and we are also going to be hearing from Carl Froch as well. An interesting couple of weeks, potentially, hopefully, anyway, coming up with him. But this is The Fight Show, right here on Sports Tonight Live. This is The Fight Show on Sports Tonight Live, and we have yet another addition to the studio, and we're still to hear from Carl Froch, but now Don Charles, who's been a busy man the last couple of weeks, is in the hot seat in the middle between the two men in black and one over here. Now, Don, here's your protege, Ali.
Indeed.
He's been shaping up, of course, speaking well ahead of the Audley Harrison fight. Just give us the trainer's perspective of this man before we get a bit more in depth with him.
Well, Ali I've known Ali for a while now, and as a person, then as a fighter, we've been together now for 6 months or so, 6-7 months. And I was an admirer of Ali as a boxer. He regularly sparred with Derek prior to teaming up with me. And during their sessions, I noticed this kid, he's got incredible style that I like. And but I also knew that his style was incomplete, the style he was trying to do. And you mentioned earlier about his confidence. I was one of the people, observers, who used to think he lacked, he didn't have heart. In boxing terms, you said they haven't got a heart. Then when I started training him, I realized it wasn't about having a heart, it was the confidence, okay, of being in a combat without knowing how to defend yourself. I know it sounds crazy, how does a fighter not know how to defend themselves? But you'd be surprised how many fighters are not shown the basics, how to deal with a simple jab that's coming towards you, how to deal with it. And that's where this confidence comes from. It's not that I'm a magician or anything like that. It's a basic, simple fact you have to spot.
But it would be fair to say that you installed that confidence as well, Don. I mean, we know because I was there as well at the beginning with Don, and Don saw what he liked, and Ali approached him, and Don said, yeah, I'd like to work with you and see what we can do, and we talked about this, and we talked about the confidence was the only issue. He had all the ability.
Everybody who watched Ali Adams always said the same thing. He hasn't got a heart. Yeah, so we identified what this problem was, and it turns out, yes, of course, there's the personality of the trainer has to come.
Absolutely.
And I happen to have it in abundance. I install it into every of my fighters. The confidence, it's all about, you become like a psychologist. You develop the skill of a psychologist when you're working with these people. You have to understand what makes them operate, how they function, what makes them function. And if you're able to get all those elements and then fuse them together, then you have the complete athlete.
Well, of course, there may be issues in terms of your background. You came from Iraq, you've probably dealt with a lot. I mean, is that to do with you as a person, and Don's probably helped with that? I mean, give us a little flavour of your history and how you ended up in this country.
It's a bit, you know, just like, I left Iraq when I was like a little boy, you know, when I was very young. All I could see, like when I was as a child, when I grew up, all I could see is a war and fighting and stuff. It's like, it's funny, my trainer mentioned the heart, you know. I've got the heart of a lion, you know. It's like I've seen, like, you know, I've seen everything. I don't want to mention it, you know. It's like, but I've seen everything as a kid and stuff. And my father, you know, he used to always, you know, by the way, my father passed away not long ago, and it was a big loss to me. He used to always, you know, just like showing me how to defend myself and how to, you know, because, you know, it's like, it's not safe, and like it wasn't safe in that time, you know, as a child when I was growing up. And but he used to show me the boxing. He used to show me how to defend myself, how to, you know, how to box, how to, you know. He always wanted me to be a boxer and stuff. So basically, you know, like it's like I could see all that, you know, comes and put me where I am today. It's like this is where my background. I see, you know, like the fighting, and I see the wars, and I see everything. This is where I am today. It's like I'm fighting for something, you know. I'm fighting for freedom. I'm fighting for, you know, for like something to achieve.
So I suppose within the ring, in some ways, it's nothing.
No, it's nothing. It's just, it's absolutely, it's like when I get into the ring, just warming up is like a normal day to me. It's not
I think, well, all it was with Ali was, like I said, it was all about the confidence. And it was, Ali said himself before that, because he wasn't with a decent trainer, wasn't with a decent management, he was not in a good place. Now he's got that. You know, he's got Steve Goodwin behind him, he's got Don Charles training him. He's in a good place, and as long as he's in a good place, you know, his mind, he's got the boxing ability to go all the way. He really has, because I see it every day in the gym, and I see what Don's done with him. He's turned him around. He's got him to believe in himself a little bit more. You know, Steve's producing the big fights. I mean, Audley Harrison, come on, you don't get much bigger than that at this stage of his career. So, that, you know, you can just tell. Look at the smile on his face. He's in a brilliant place right now.
And my face.
In terms of Audley, then. It's a funny one with him, really. His eye has been off the ball, if you like, in terms of what he's been doing with the dancing and everything else, and the loss to David Hay last time out. What's this fight going to be like? I mean, what do you expect from Audley Harrison?
Well, we expect Audley as Audley. Audley, let me tell you something, you know, I'm not one of these people that ridicule Audley. First of all, he's an Olympian. Let's not overlook that. You don't get given these medals. You have to win them, which he went there. He demonstrated he won it. Yeah, he came back. Okay, I can't speak for Audley in terms of managing himself. He hasn't been the best manager. As far as I was concerned, he did that wrong. He should have let people who are tested and tried to manage his career for him. He did that wrong. That's definitely. In terms of matchmaking, again, he got that wrong. He tried to do everything himself. That's where he messed up, as far as I'm concerned. As a fighter, technically, he's immaculate. Technically. Again, I believe he suffers from the same problem most fighters, but they never address that point of the defense problem. If you attack Audley Harrison, he folds. People say he hasn't got a heart. I'm one of the people who accuses him of not having a heart. And that comes from a basic thing of not being able to defend anything coming towards him.
But you can. One thing you can guarantee is, which we know. I've known Audley for a long time. Don Charles known him as well. One thing we can guarantee is that Audley's a man of pride. So he's not going to turn up here just to lie down. By the way,
thank you very much. Yeah.
He's going to turn up. So the Audley that we can expect turning up on the 14th of April is a man looking to revive his career, not to go in there for a payday, because he's not there for that. And I will make that point. And I think, Don, you know that as well, don't you?
On the button, absolutely. I was getting to that point. We're not taking this guy, you know, lightly. He will come there to redeem himself. He knows the public have ridiculed him. Okay, he's recently been in, is it Come Dancing?
Strictly, I think. Strictly
Come Dancing. Yeah, but one thing I can say to you, Audley's a very good friend of mine, okay? This is sport we're in. Yeah. On that night, that's my man there, okay? I'm going to watch my new boy be a friend of mine in Audley Harrison. But one thing I can say to you, after the first round, he will be saying, "Get me out of here, I'm a celebrity." I can assure you that.
Right. The agent will be spinning around. That's the next one. That's the next one. He's a big specimen. He's got very long arms. You know, we know what he can do. And as Don says, technically he's brilliant. So how do you technically get in there and do what you need to do?
I'm going to attack him from round one. Promise you will see. You know, yeah, I'm going to attack him. Like, you know, I'm not going to give him any chance. I'd rather die than lose to Audley Harrison. As Charles said, you know, if he passed the first round, seriously, he's going to say, you know what, get me out of here, I'm a celebrity.
There you go. Because you heard it from the man himself.
You picked a round as well, haven't you?
Say that again?
Didn't you pick a round?
Yeah, round 4. He's going. No, I don't think he's going to last to round 4, but, you know, it's like I'm just giving him, like, you know, giving me credit. So if it lasts round 4, he's going down.
But witnessing it, Just to say, Ali has trained for 12. You know, he knows there's a possibility he could go 12.
15.
The man's in great shape.
Now, you mentioned before, Don, got to mention it, Derek. Firstly, I mean, there's been a lot of chat from the WBC and Mr. Suleiman in terms of indefinite bans, and now there will be a hearing. We know that the British Board of Boxing Control will have a hearing on March the 14th. It's all a bit messy. Firstly, can you tell us, Derek, how he is, where he is, and secondly, your view on everything that's unfolded in the last day or two?
Well, I'm not going to elaborate because I'm not allowed to do so because, as you know, there's a hearing pending. So it would not be right for me to sit here and tell you this and that. But all I can say to you, Derek, you asked me, how is he? He's very well. Where is he? He's in London, in Hampstead, where he lives. And all is well. With everything that's going on, obviously, time will determine what happens. It's not in our hands.
I think it's a case of, listen, nobody knows anything that happens. Me and Don speak on a day-to-day basis. You know, we know we know things that could happen, we know things that couldn't happen, but we know that nothing's going to happen until March the 14th, and I think that's the only time you're going to get the answers. Otherwise, it's all going to be hearsay. It's all going to be, will this happen? Will it be 12 months? Will it be a life ban? Will he get just a fine? You know, until March the 14th, I don't think anybody can have any answers.
That's correct, yeah. I'm quite welcome to come back here if you invite me to, after the hearing, to discuss anything.
You need a point to move on, so
most definitely.
That's the date that you have, and hopefully everything we can all make sense of things from then on.
By the grace of God, yes.
Yeah, but in the meantime, there's enough occupying you, of course, in the shape of Ali.
The main thing at the moment for me as a trainer, I have to refocus with everything going on. This young man here deserves the opportunity that's been given to us by Steve Goodwin, the promoter. Again, I know you've touched on it, but even as a trainer, a new trainer, by the way, because I haven't been on the scene that long, I can assure you this man here, Steve Goodwin, there should be more of him, and it'll be a safer place and a better place with the likes of Steve Goodwin.
What for you, Ali, in terms of how realistically far can you go with your career? You speak obviously brilliantly in terms of what you want to do with Audley and everything else, but you've had a couple of setbacks in your career, 17
definitely.
fights, but what can you achieve?
Yeah, we're taking for like a step at a time, you know, like we're planning, you know, to knock Audley Harrison out, and then we'll definitely, if it's going to happen, you know, I guarantee you that round 4 you'll be knocked out, and then
I think for Audley, once he gets rid of Audley, I think the world's his oyster, isn't it? I mean, there's Steve Goodwin. It's down to Steve then to see where Ali goes. But I mean, Ali will shoot up the rankings. Then there will be loads of doors opening for him. I mean, to answer Ali's question for him, it's like the world's his oyster. After this win, he's got a big name on his record. And there's loads of opportunities.
So I'm just
domestically as well, though, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. I'm just focusing on Audley's fight now.
At this moment.
At this moment. As soon as I finish that one, as soon as I win that one, then after that, you know,
think about
my promoter Steve Goodwin and my trainer Don Charles, and here's my good friend Spencer. We can work all together, and then, you know, just like.
And how's sparring and training and everything going now?
All
just
amazing.
over a month.
Yeah, all amazing. You know, it's like as I said, you know, we've been training for a long time. We've been in preparation, and then, you know, just like I've been sparring with Derek, I've been sparring with a couple of different guys, and we've been doing running.
Is actually ahead of schedule in terms, because he was actually helping Derek prepare for the Vitali fight. So we're ahead of. I've had to pull him back a little, otherwise he would have picked before time. So he's in good nick. He's a brilliant athlete. This young man.
Well, more chat to come up, but this we're going to be hearing as well from Carl Froch about his plans, which could be very interesting. Right here on the Fight Show on Sports Tonight Live.
That was it.
Welcome, this is the Fight Show on Sports Tonight Live with me, Don McGuinness, Spencer Oliver in the studio as ever, Don Charles, of course, the trainer of Derek Chisora, and of course the star of the future and now, Ali Adams, don't do that to me. A little bit on them. That's a big fist, by the way.
He has got very big hands, this young man.
Big fist.
He has. He really has.
That's in Audley's house on it. First punch.
Seriously, is that something when you're looking at fighters, they come in the gym and you weigh them up? I mean, the physical specimen side of things.
Of
what
course.
are you looking for?
I hope not. Let me see.
It depends. It depends. You can't really read a lot into that, into size.
No.
Yeah.
No, it's all
You
about
can't
boxing.
really
It's
read
all
it.
about boxing ability
can't
and
read a lot
what you
into
got
it.
in
I know
there,
what I
really.
personally look for, but I'm not going to reveal that now. That would give away my trade secrets.
That's not the legs.
Like I said, trade secrets, you know.
Okay.
I've got the biggest fist, and I've been asking Charlie, you know, before he took me out, before he started training me, for the last 3 years. I've been asking him, come on, train me, please. I want you to train me. But, you know, he only recently, you know, decided to
That's right.
train me.
That's
So
a
it's nothing
point,
to do with
actually.
it.
That's a point, because
Yeah.
I was admiring him from a distance, and he used to ask me, can you train me? I said, no, my hands are full, because my focus was on we know who, Del Boy. And eventually, after 3 years, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
years later.
I thought, this kid is persistent. He's persistent, the kid, and I do admire his style anyway, so I thought, you know what, I'll take you on. And you're still on trial, by the way. Yeah.
Well, there's a
still on
fellow
trial.
that,
Finish, okay.
a fellow that isn't on trial who's been there, done it at the very, very top. And I'm delighted to say we have Carl Froch on the line now. Carl, I'm sure you're in fine fettle as well, and ticking away nicely in Nottingham. Is that the right thing?
Yeah, I'm ticking over. I'm just in the gym doing my own little thing at the minute. You know, some nice runs. Say nice runs. No runs are nice, but steady by my standards. And I'm in the gym just working out shadowboxing, bags and a few pads and that. I'll go back up to Sheffield.
So, Cole, tell us what's going on at the moment. Spencer, by the way, mate, how you doing? Also, what's the future hold for you, Cole? Have we got any dates yet?
We're very close to you are, Spencer, are you? You good?
You well?
Yeah, I'm really well, really well.
Good, glad to hear it, mate. I'm actually in, well, my promoter Eddie Hearn's in talks with Lucian Bute's team. I think it's Interbox Bute, they call themselves. So they're in discussions trying to get this fight nailed down. There's a lot of people speculating and, you know, dates flying around, 5th of May, 12th of May, 19th, 26th. And, there's, you know, hopefully something's going to be done May 26th, and Bute is going to be coming to the UK, which is fantastic news because, you know, I've spent the last 2 years of my career on the road. I've got some unbelievable air miles. I'm fighting the very best of the best, time after time. So, you know, to be fighting Lucian Bute for me is normal for me, normal standard fight. I mean, it's top level fighting. Rather than taking a give me, if you like, you know, an easy opponent, I'm still mixing it with the best. But, you know, why shouldn't I be? I'm one of the best fighters. I think I'm still ranked number 2 in the world anyway. So, and at my stage, I'm 34 years old. I'm no spring chicken. I'm not past it yet, but I'm no spring chicken. So I'm looking at still doing some damage at world level, and to fight Lucian Bute in the UK for a battle.
So,
I'm very excited.
Cole, you lost in the final of the Super 6. Now, explain to us why wasn't Lucian Bute in the Super 6?
He didn't sign up originally over 2 years ago when the contracts were being made and the discussions were going ahead. I think he priced himself out. He didn't fancy mixing it in with the 6 that was signed up. You know, myself, Durrell, Ward, I think Jermaine Taylor, and it was Abraham and Mikkel Kessler. Some very good, proven world-level fighters, and a couple of up-and-comers, Ward and Durrell being 2 of them. And it works out that Ward won the tournament in a close fight with me. And so Lucian Bute probably made the right decision because, you know, I couldn't even see him in the semi-final, to be honest. But, you know, he's waited around in the shadows for the Super 6 to end, and now he's fighting the guy who didn't quite do enough in the final to win. So he may be taking me lightly. He may be thinking, I don't know, I'll go to England and fight him. You don't know what's going through his head, but he's forced into a position now where he's got to fight somebody, and unfortunately for him, I'm not somebody. So I'm going to really, you know, make him pay, and it's a world title for me. So I mean, I take every fight seriously, but this is a chance for me to, if you like, redeem myself at world level after that stinker with Ward.
And also, we've got Ali Adams in the studio here with us now. Ali's boxing Audley Harrison on 14th of April. Have you got any words of advice for Ali?
How are you doing, Carl?
You've got to make sure you're really, really fit and, you know, do your training, do your hard work, minimum. And I'm sure he knows you've got to be fit. But he's fighting Audley Harrison. So, you know, I don't want to take anything away from Audley Harrison, because the goal won an Olympic gold medal, and he's mixed it with some very good fighters at top level. But, you know, don't lose any sleep. It would be maybe a bit good advice. Get plenty of rest, as well as hard practice.
Do you feel if you get the fight with Bute, Carl, that will kind of complete the Super 6 plus 1, if you like, in terms of the top guys in the super middleweight division?
I think I've fought everybody who's the best in the world, yeah. I mean, there's no dispute in that. And now, obviously, Lucian Bute didn't sign up to the Super 6, so to get that fight with him is the missing link, if you like. So, yeah, I think that will sort of, for me, it will complete my career in that sense. And it's also the start of something new, because I'll be IBF world champion.
And also nice to be in Nottingham. If you can make the fight in Nottingham, you won your WBC title there when you beat Jean Pascal in a fight that every boxing fan will remember. You've been on the road, as you mentioned before, for 2 years. Do you feel you deserve that homecoming?
I think so, yeah. I mean, I'm never going to make any complaints about it, because I don't mind. I really don't mind travelling away. But it does get to you after a bit. I mean, I spent 3 or 4 weeks in New York before the Glencock-Johnson fight, then we jetted over to Atlantic City. Then I did the same 5 months later, stayed in New York again in Manhattan for another 4 weeks, then went over to Atlantic City again. So although I'm used to it, it's not ideal. You know, you're in a small apartment, you're in a strange gym, you've got, you know, people. It's just not familiar, and when you're taken out of your familiarity, it's not very nice. Although I'm used to it, it's an absolute pleasure fighting at home, and to bring it back for my fans in the UK. I think it's a fantastic treat for me and for them, and something to get very excited about. I'm certainly excited.
Carl, I heard you fighting a southpaw. Any advice? You know, it's like I'm fighting Audley Harrison. He's a southpaw. Any advice? You know, as a champion?
I always find southpaws quite easy to hit, because I throw a lot of right uppercuts out of range. I lead with the right hand, and you know, they're straight on for it. Audley Harrison's a counterpuncher. He sits back and he tries to tee you up with his jab, and he very, very rarely triggers off of his left cross. Now, southpaws for me I find quite easy because of my style. You know, it depends on how you fight, but Audley Harrison's a decent counterpunching southpaw, so just make sure you get plenty of southpaw sparring and get used to the way they stand. And whoever you're doing your pads with, obviously your trainer needs to stand in the southpaw position and chuck plenty of left crosses at you and try and get around that tricky jab and get your foot on the outside of his foot. But, you know, it's all the standard stuff that you should know anyway.
Definitely.
Carl, hi, this is Don Charles. Listening to that, you know what? You should become a trainer when you hang your gloves up. Absolutely on the button. By the way, obviously I've been following your career. The 3 fights that most impressed me, or you impressed me, is your call, Brian McGee. That was a career-defining fight for you from where I'm watching from. You showed a lot.
Yeah, that was a turning point in my career, definitely. British title defence against somebody who was pretty much established at a good level.
That's right. That's when I took notice of you. I thought, this kid is going all the way, because you showed a lot of things in that fight against Brian. It was a tough fight. Yeah, every time McGee hit you, you came back with a bigger shot, and that's always been your character. Obviously, Jean Pascal was another cracker. For me, the 3rd fight I would choose, since I've been following you, is Jermaine Taylor, obviously. You showed in that fight, never give up, and you done him in the last round, I believe. So, you know, I'm big admirer of yours, the heart, the chin of a granite, and yeah, I'm a big fan.
I appreciate that, I really do.
Listen, Con, you mentioned just before about Sheffield. You'd be up there and you'll be probably doing a few rounds with some of the young GB boxers again. Would that be right? And if so, how are they all shaping up ahead of what will be the time of their lives in London?
I think we're going to have probably the best Olympics, one of the best, if not the best, in terms of medals, because there's so many fighters up there that, you know, they're not only hungry and they've got the desire, and, you know, they're funded by the National Lottery, which makes their life a bit easier. So they're full-time athletes, these boys, and girls as well, but we're talking about the lads that are going. They're showing, you know, promise in all the qualifying tournaments, in all the multi-nations tournaments, all the international stuff they're doing. They're proving by winning back-to-back medals. And then we're not just talking about silvers and bronze, we're talking golds. You know, Tom Stalker, Andrew Selby, there's so many, Anthony Joshua, there's some real potential gold medalists that are doing so well. Anthony Agogo now has got his shoulder sorted, and, you know, he's at middleweight, and I'm doing a bit of sparring with him, and Callum Smith as well, who's also a middleweight. there's so many top fighters. I'm really excited. I mean, I shouldn't be this excited about amateur boxing, but I don't always watch it because I'm training with them. I'm taking a bit of notice in, and we're looking forward to boxing being really put back on the map after these Olympics, because it does that, the Olympics. You know, we get medalists, and then boxing comes to the forefront again, and it gets big again. So, you know, the back end of 2012, after these lads go out there and prove and win all these medals, I'm hoping boxing is going to be really back up there as a top sport. And that's what the Olympics does for.
It needs it as well. I mean, Don's here, of course. Don had an experience in Munich. We don't need to go over again, but boxing needs that lift, doesn't it? And I think London could well provide the anti-boxing brigade with the kind of story that we all know boxing's about.
Yeah, of course it does. It does need a lift. You know, most sports do, but not all sports. I mean, football dominates, and, you know, when tennis comes around every summer, the TV stops, and sometimes even the snooker, you wonder what's going on. I mean, I'm a snooker fan, but the amount of hours on BBC One and BBC Two spent on snooker when that happens for 2 or 3 weeks, it's unbelievable. Boxing does need to be put into the forefront sometimes. It does need great press, and Olympics is going to provide that. So it's exciting times for boxing, it really is. I mean, it's a great year for me with this world title fight coming up, and then we've got the Olympics. So I'm excited, especially with Robert McCracken's input on the England squad, because he's obviously my trainer, and he's the coach for all the Olympians. So it's quite relative to me, and I'm excited about it and looking forward to it.
Just finally, Carl, before we let you go, you've had a bit of press recently about some comments you made about picking your rounds, should we say. Do you expect anything to come of that? And how do you feel about that story in terms of what you said about, you know, maybe you knew that your friends had put a bet on this round or whatever?
Yeah, it's people making a big deal out of nothing. You know, it's sort of bringing something to the front that don't need to be mentioned. Muhammad Ali used to always make round predictions. You know, Joe's going to fall in 4, Joe Fraser, and Prince Nassim Hamid don't blink in round 3. So, you know, 7 years ago we're talking about when I said I'm going to knock him out in round 5. That's just being, you know, that's being cheeky, and it's bravado, and it's being leery and confident to put it in your opponent's head, and it's sort of mimicking some of the all-time greats and the names I've mentioned. And if people want to make a big deal about that, it's ridiculous. I mean, I've spoke to the British Boxing Board of Control. It's been dealt with. It's finished. It's behind this. You know what I mean? It's really, really not an issue.
I think it's just it's been the history of boxing, isn't it? I mean, like you mentioned some of the names there. We see that all the time, and it's a little bit of tongue in cheek, and people, you get certain characters just like to make a big deal out of nothing, really.
Of course, it just goes to show, you know, with the current times, you've really got to be careful what you say at top level. I mean, I've got a squeaky clean image, and I should have, because I do everything correct, and, you know, I'm a good role model. I consider myself a good role model, but I do a lot for, you know, for my local amateur gym, for charity, and to let people look up to the sport, and I try and keep the sport as clean as possible. It just shows you do have to be careful what you say, and especially what you do in this sport, because you can tarnish not only your own reputation, but you can sort of blacken the sport of boxing, because there's always the anti-boxing brigade that's ready to jump on the soapbox or the bandwagon and start to try and bring it down and write it off. But, you know, we have to rise above that every time. Boxing's a fantastic sport. It's part of the curriculum in quite a few schools, actually, and I think it should be in every school. But without getting on my soapbox, you know, I love the sport, and hopefully it's going to continue to grow and grow, especially with the Olympics being at home this year.
Well, Carl, we appreciate your time. Thank you very much indeed, and we'll wait with interest to the announcement of, hopefully, a home fight for you and Lucian Bute for that IBF title, Carl Froch.
Exactly. Hopefully it will be within 24 hours, and, you know, you'd have heard it here first, because it'll be on 26th of May. Hopefully not against Lucian Bute. Yeah, I mean, I'm literally waiting for the phone to ring. That's how close we are to doing the deal.
That's the scoop. You heard it here first on the Fight Show Sports Night Live. 26th of May, Carl the Cobra Froch is going to be fighting for that world title. Thank you very much indeed, Carl. And interesting, you were picking rounds before. Carl's making that point about picking rounds. It's all a bit of nonsense. But I suppose it's the current climate of professional sport.
Yeah,
it's talking about gambling and anything like that.
It's a part of boxing.
Muhammad Ali invented that, you know, picking rounds and what shots he was going to take them out with, and carrying fighters and all that. And listen, we know, speaking, all three of us here, we know what it's like to get inside the ring, and you ain't going to do no overtime. So if you can get rid of someone in round 1, you're going to do that. You're not going to carry them into round 5 just in case you get knocked out. It's all tongue-in-cheek, and I think that certain anti-boxing brigades just do try and take it a little bit too far.
I'm a man of my word, you know, I said.
We'll hold you to that, of course. Right, round 4 you said, but we've run out of time as well, which you say Audley will run out of time. We wait and see. Spencer, as ever, thank you very much. Don Charles, pleasure having you in. And of course, best of luck, Ali Adams.
Thank you very much.
This has been, and always is, The Fight Show on Sports Tonight Live.
Stay ahead of the game with Sports Tonight Live. Don't miss a thing. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Search for Sports Tonight Live on Facebook and like our fan page. Follow Sports Tonight TV on Twitter and tweet us your thoughts and opinions. Sports Tonight Live, it's the platform for the fans.
Welcome to The Fight Show on Sports Tonight Live with me, Don McGuinness, and as ever, delighted to a man that, well, he needs no introduction, but it is Spencer Oliver. But a little brief introduction would be former European super bantamweight champion and a man with fine sartorial elegance as well. Busy week as ever, Spencer?
As ever, yeah, been really busy. Was down at the weekend working on the Nathan Cleverley fight. That was very interesting. Another good performance by Cleverley, and busy in the gym as always.
Cleverley, how would you sum up his performance?
Well,
I mean, he got a bit of stick, didn't he?
Yeah, he did get a bit of stick, but I mean, he put in a great performance. But if a guy comes and doesn't really want to fight, he was only really a sparring partner. He was a former sparring partner of Roy Jones, and he brought that into the ring with him. So it was very hard for Cleverley because Kapensky didn't really want to fight. So, I mean, all in all, Cleverley done everything that he could do. He won every round, and onwards and upwards, they say.
More of that chat in a minute. We've got plenty of guests on tonight. If we have a quick look at our salubrious green room, we can see Audley Adams, who's got a fight coming up with the one and only Audley Harrison, alongside Don Charles, who's had a little bit of press and a busy couple of weeks himself, and then Steve Goodwin as well, promoter. But we can start our latest fight show alongside you, a man you know well, of course, promoter and founder of secondsout.com, Robert Waterman. Hello, Robert. How are you?
Hi, very.
Last week, in terms of where does boxing go now?
Sure.
Is it all bleak and everything else? We're going to get into what Robert's up to in a second. But do you think that the dust has settled a little bit? We've had the statement from Jose Sullivan and everything else.
Absolutely, yeah. Jose Sullivan is now sort of, you know, he said that Derek wasn't going to, had been banned by the WBC. I think he's now reconsidering that situation. We've got a big debate going on this evening down at Bethnal Green, York Hall, which is going out live on a radio station. Derek's hearing's coming up on March the 14th, where the boxing board are going to be seen to be dealing with the situation. But look, I think that the dust has settled a little bit, and as Robert rightly said, you know, these things happen in boxing. Boxing's got a lot of publicity out of it, and the right thing will be dealt with on March the 14th. But until March the 14th, we can't really say no more about it.
And this is Olympic year. And we've got the biggest squad and the strongest squad as Team GB for many Olympics. I can't remember an Olympics in my lifetime where we've had a bigger or stronger squad. That's going to give a great fillip to the sport here. And, you know, the amateurs of yesterday are the professionals, the amateurs today are the professionals tomorrow, as Spencer can attest to.
It seems to be a remarkable amount of hypocrisy in terms of some of the people that have been jumping up and down about the events in Munich will be the same people that will be jumping up and down for very different reasons when Team GB win a host of medals,
absolutely,
you know, in East London from a few months' time. People, there doesn't seem to be any kind of sense in that.
Listen, a lot of the people that are jumping up and down about the events that happened out in Munich are the same people that paid the £10 to watch the...
Good.
You've been enjoying the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, very much so, thanks. Yeah, very interesting time.
It is interesting time. I think it's always going to be interesting times at the moment for boxing, taking a lot of heat, of course, after Chisora, the Klitschko stuff in Munich. But yourself, as a promoter, as a man that's been involved with the sport for a long time, a guy that knows a lot of the protagonists, in fact, from the last couple of weeks, what's your general view of the way things are shaping up now?
Well, I think it's interesting. I mean, if we look at the Chisora Klitschko issue, I don't think it's as bad for boxing as everyone's making out. I mean, it's a shame, and I'm not defending anything that either of them did at all. It's reprehensible, and you can't defend the indefensible. But it's not so bad for boxing. I mean, if we look at it historically, it's happened before. If we look at even the press coverage, had the two guys donated half their purses to charity and opened a general hospital, boxing would have got half the coverage that it got. We live in a society of immediate, salacious gratification, and they ate it up, the press ate it up. Boxing's had more coverage than we've had for years. Of course it's indefensible, of course it's bad, but you know, the old thing, no PR is bad PR, and you've only got to watch football and look at the footballers and what they get up to realise that, yeah, this is almost an almost nothing as far as I'm concerned. Of course they need to be punished and dealt with, but I don't see it as the end of boxing.
There has been a great deal of chat, Spencer. I mean, we spoke about
Cello Render, who's never in a dull fight. He had the famous double knockdown show, I think in 2009, against Paul Samuels. He then fought him again and lost, but again, both of them were down in that show as well. Both received counts. I mean, Cello's not in a dull fight, ever in a dull fight. I think he's one of the most exciting fighters out there. He's now taken on a new trainer in John Pegg, who says he's putting a bit of maturity and skill and technique into Cello, and he says we're going to see a new Cello. But I suspect home crowd, the adrenaline, he sold a pile of tickets. I think when that all happens, we're going to have a real excitement. We've got JJ Bird on the card. Funnily enough, he's a boxer trained by our friend here, Spencer. JJ had a bit of a issue on a previous event, and he's had to jump through an awful lot of hoops to be permitted to box on this show, but that's all past now, and we're looking for a good performance, a sort of a career rebuild performance on this show. We've got Martin Gethin, who's, you know, a real British quality standard fighter. He's in an international masters title fight, a good 10-round fight. We've got Nathan Dale, Kane Brody, Jake the Snake Dyer, and Terry Holmes, all in sort of good local contests. And I don't actually look at this as a small hall fight. I've done small hall shows, I've done some very big shows. I look at this as somewhere in the middle because it's in a fabulous arena.
Contest anyway, do you know what I mean? So it's like, it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. I think that people just like to make a little bit of noise and be heard about certain situations, and when the dust settles, you know, is it really as bad as what has come out over the press over the last couple of weeks? Ultimately then, from your point of view, Robert, you've got a show coming up in Peterborough next week.
9th of March.
What does this do for you? Does it help you sell, ironically, despite the profit at Doom Merchants?
I don't think it has to be frank, I don't think it has an effect on my show. We've got a great show on the 9th of March at Peterborough Arena, East of England Showground. We've got some great fighters on it. They are what will sell the event. The fans, I haven't had one person so far that has said we've got a problem with the show or there's an issue because of what happened. It is really not on people's radar with respect to boxing fans. Of course, it gives ammunition to those people who would like to cause problems to boxing.
I think, as far as it goes with the boxing fans, I think it creates an interest with the boxing fans. Boxing fans, actually, if you listen to the people on the street, the boxing fans actually quite enjoyed a little bit of drama in boxing because boxing's been going through quite a lull anyway, and I think that the general people in the street has created a lot of interest, whether it be good or bad. People on the street seem to be sort of like, it's sparked up a little bit of interest. So I think for the small hall shows like what Robert's doing up in Peterborough, I think that it can only be good for them sort of shows because it sort of sparks a little bit of interest. Do you know what I mean?
So talk us through a couple of the fights that you've got lined up.
Well, we've got